A hotel manager throws a black woman's clothes in the lobby, shaming her in front of everyone, without knowing who she really is. By morning, the video is everywhere. And the $900 million contract his hotel needed? Gone. Turns out, she wasn't just a guest. She was the top contender for one of the biggest federal deals in the country. He thought she was nobody. She turned out to be unstoppable. But what she does next shakes the entire system. Will dignity, silence, and strategy be enough to destroy everything built on arrogance, or is this just the beginning? Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Janice stepped out of the rideshare, her feet landing on the hot asphalt of Hartsfield-Jackson Airport's parking lot. She adjusted her worn leather duffel bag, a familiar weight that felt oddly comforting. The humid air wrapped around her like a warm embrace, reminding her of summers spent in Atlanta as a child. She pulled out her phone, scanning messages until she found one from Carlton Banks. The breakfast meeting loomed large in her mind, an opportunity for a $900 million contract that could change lives. As she settled into the back seat of the rideshare, she allowed herself a brief moment to breathe deeply. "Where to?" the driver asked, glancing back through the rear-view mirror. "The Franklin Grand Hotel," she replied, tucking away thoughts of the long flight and its accompanying fatigue. Minutes later, they rolled up to the hotel, its historic southern luxury facade rising majestically against the twilight sky. Janice couldn't help but admire it. Polished stone and intricate details spoke of wealth and privilege. She stepped inside, greeted by a well-dressed receptionist with an overly bright smile. "Welcome to Franklin Grand," the receptionist chirped. But before Janice could utter a word, a stern figure in a blazer approached with purpose. Dale Whitmore's scowl cut through the lobby's polished ambiance like a knife. Dale Whitmore's polished leather shoes clicked against the marble floor as he approached Janice. His face twisted into a mask of practiced disdain, one he'd perfected over years of maintaining standards at the Franklin Grand. "What exactly do you think you're doing here?" Dale's voice carried across the lobby, deliberately loud enough to draw attention. He positioned himself between Janice and the front desk, his body language screaming authority. "I have a reservation," Janice said calmly, reaching for her phone. Her voice was steady, measured, the voice of someone who'd navigated these waters before. "A reservation?" Dale's laugh was sharp and dismissive. "I highly doubt that. This is a luxury establishment, and we have strict policies about—" He paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "Loitering." Behind the front desk, Angela Nguyen's fingers hovered over her keyboard. She could pull up the reservation list in seconds, but Dale's commanding presence kept her frozen in place. Her hand slipped into her pocket, finding her phone. "If you'll just check the system," Janice began. "I don't need to check anything," Dale cut her off, speaking over her as if she hadn't uttered a word. "I know exactly what's happening here. Security!" He snapped his fingers, the sound echoing off the high ceiling. Janice remained still, her expression composed despite the growing audience of hotel guests who'd stopped to stare. "My name is—" But Dale wasn't listening. He reached for Janice's worn leather duffel bag, yanking it from her shoulder with enough force to make her step back. "This establishment has standards," he announced to the gathering crowd, as if delivering a lecture. "We don't tolerate vagrants or troublemakers." With theatrical flourish, Dale swung the bag. It hit the floor with a crack that made several onlookers jump. The zipper, stressed from the impact, burst open. Clothes tumbled out across the pristine marble. A cascade of personal items laid bare for all to see. Gasps rippled through the lobby as Janice's undergarments, toiletries, and carefully packed clothes scattered across the floor. A tube of toothpaste rolled toward a potted palm. A silk scarf settled like a wounded bird near someone's feet. Angela's hands shook as she held her phone, recording every second. She kept it low, partially hidden by the desk, but her angle captured everything. Dale's smug expression, the scattered belongings, and Janice's face as she watched her dignity being stripped away in public. Two security guards approached, their steps hesitant. Even they seemed uncomfortable with the scene unfolding before them. "Please," Janice said, her voice carrying clearly despite its softness. "Just check the reservation system." "My name is—" "Remove her," Dale ordered the guards. "And make sure she understands she's not welcome here." He straightened his blazer, clearly pleased with himself. The security guards exchanged glances before moving toward Janice. One of them, younger with uncertainty in his eyes, bent down to gather some of her belongings. "Don't bother," Dale snapped. "She can collect her things." On her way out, Janice knelt down, her movements deliberate and dignified. She began picking up her clothes, folding each item with the same care she might use in her own bedroom. The lobby had gone silent except for the soft rustle of fabric and the muffled sounds of Dale's impatient sighs. Angela zoomed in with her phone as Janice methodically packed her bag, capturing every detail of this quiet act of resistance. Her hands trembled with suppressed rage, but she kept recording. "Ma'am," one of the guards said softly, "we need you to come with us." Janice stood, her bag repacked. She brushed invisible dust from her travel clothes and looked directly at Dale. "I will wait outside while you confirm my reservation," she said, each word precise and measured. The guards flanked her, not quite touching her, but making it clear she had to move. Janice walked between them, her head high, her steps unhurried. The crowd parted, some looking away in shame, others openly staring. At the front doors, Janice turned back one last time. "My name," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "is Dr. Janice Holloway. When you check your system, you'll find my reservation." But Dale had already turned away, waving his hand dismissively as he walked back toward his office. "Make sure she leaves the property," he called over his shoulder. Outside in the humid night air, Janice pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved swiftly across the screen, ordering another rideshare. She stood under the hotel's ornate entrance, the golden light from inside spilling around her like a spotlight. From behind the front desk, Angela watched through the glass doors, her phone still recording. Her hand shook so badly she had to steady it against the desk. She wanted to run outside, to apologize, to do something, anything, to right this wrong. But fear kept her rooted in place, her finger hovering over the stop recording button. A car pulled up to the curb. Janice opened the door and slipped inside with the same quiet grace she'd shown throughout the ordeal. As the vehicle pulled away, she didn't look back at the Franklin Grand Hotel or its gleaming facade. Angela finally stopped recording, her chest tight with emotion. She glanced at Dale's closed office door, then down at her phone where the video waited like a loaded gun. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling. At the Marriott downtown, Janice placed her keycard on the desk and carefully unzipped her battered duffel bag. The room was smaller than what she'd booked at the Franklin Grand, but it was clean and quiet. The digital clock on the nightstand blinked 12:03 a.m. She laid out her belongings on the cream-colored bedspread, taking inventory. Her silk blouses had survived mostly unwrinkled, protected by their careful rolling. The toiletry bag had leaked a bit of moisturizer, but nothing was broken. Her laptop, thankfully tucked in its padded sleeve, showed no signs of damage from the fall. Only her favorite scarf bore evidence of the night's humiliation. A small tear along one edge where it had caught on the marble floor. Janice ran her fingers over the delicate fabric, remembering how her mother had given it to her when she'd earned her doctorate. The memory stirred something in her chest, but she pushed it aside. She reached for her phone and opened her email. Carlton's message from earlier still sat at the top of her inbox, confirming their 8 a.m. breakfast meeting to finalize the contract details. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she composed her reply. Carlton, just confirming our breakfast meeting tomorrow at 8 a.m. I've had to change hotels, but we'll meet you as planned. Looking forward to discussing the final details. Best regards, Janice. She hit send, then methodically began hanging her clothes in the closet. Each item was smoothed, assessed, and put in its place with the same attention to detail she brought to her engineering projects. The routine was familiar, calming, a way to restore order to a night that had spiraled beyond her control. Across town, Angela Nguyen's hands shook as she clocked out at the Franklin Grand. The night shift was ending, but the knot in her stomach had only grown tighter. She gathered her belongings from her locker, careful to avoid Dale's office on her way out. In her small apartment, Angela kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto her couch. The video felt like it was burning a hole in her pocket. She pulled out her phone and watched it again, her throat tightening at the sound of Dale's voice, at the sight of Dr. Holloway's belongings scattered across the floor. She opened her messages and texted her best friend, Mai. Something horrible happened at work tonight. This manager humiliated a black woman in front of everyone, threw her stuff all over the lobby. I recorded it. Don't know what to do. Mai's response came quickly. That's awful. Did you report it? Angela stared at the message. Report it to whom? Dale was the manager. His behavior was awful, but not unusual. She'd seen similar incidents before, though never quite this extreme. She'd stayed quiet then, telling herself it wasn't her place to speak up. I have it on video, she typed back, thinking about posting it. Do it, Mai replied. People need to see this stuff still happens. Angela opened her social media account, her heart pounding. She created a new post and attached the video. Her fingers trembled as she typed the caption. This happened at my job tonight. She set the post to private, viewable only by her friends, then hit share before she could change her mind. The clock on her phone showed 1:17 a.m. Sleep wouldn't come. Angela tossed and turned, checking her phone every few minutes. By 2 a.m., the post had 50 shares. Comments flooded in, each notification making her phone buzz. This is disgusting. Where is this? Someone needs to be fired. Is this the Franklin Grand Hotel in Atlanta? The shares kept climbing. 300, 500. People were tagging news outlets, civil rights organizations, and influential accounts. Someone created the hashtag Jatcher Franklin Grand Disgrace, and it was gaining momentum. By 3 a.m., Angela's private post had somehow broken containment. Screenshots and recordings of her video were being shared publicly. The view count was in the thousands, then tens of thousands. The comments section became a flood of outrage and calls for action. Angela lay in her dark bedroom, watching the numbers climb. Her phone screen illuminated her face as she scrolled through the responses, her anxiety mixing with a strange sense of relief. The truth was out there now, spreading like wildfire through the digital night. She thought of Dr. Holloway's quiet dignity as she'd picked up her scattered belongings. She thought of Dale's smug satisfaction as he'd walked away. She thought of her own silence in all the times before this. The hashtag Franklin Grand Disgrace climbed Twitter's trending topics. Local news stations were picking up the story. Angela's original post had been shared over 10,000 times, and it wasn't even dawn yet. She closed her eyes, knowing sleep wouldn't come. Tomorrow would bring consequences. She was sure of that. But for now, in the quiet dark of her apartment, she felt something she hadn't expected. Peace. The truth was finally floating, just as it should. Carlton Banks's phone buzzed at 6 a.m. sharp, interrupting his morning routine. He was already dressed in a crisp navy suit, about to pour his first cup of coffee in his hotel room at the Franklin Grand. The message from his niece Tanya contained only a video link and the text, "Uncle C, isn't this the hotel you're staying at?" He tapped the link, and his hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. The footage was shaky, but clear enough. He recognized Janice immediately, even in her travel clothes. His jaw tightened as he watched Dale Whitmore dump her bag onto the marble floor, watched her undergarments scatter like fallen leaves, while onlookers gasped. "Dear God," he muttered, setting his phone down with trembling fingers. He checked the view count. Over 200,000 and climbing. The timestamp showed this had happened just hours ago, in this very hotel. Carlton sank into the plush armchair by the window, his appetite gone. He'd known Janice for 20 years, had watched her build her firm from the ground up. She'd never mentioned the incident in her late-night email confirming their breakfast meeting. That was Janice, handling indignities with a quiet grace that made them all the more infuriating to witness. Across town at the Marriott, Janice stood before the mirror, adjusting her charcoal gray blazer. She'd chosen her power suit deliberately, Italian wool, perfectly tailored, with a deep purple silk blouse that brought out the warm undertones in her dark skin. Her silver-streaked hair was swept into an elegant twist, and her makeup was flawless, applied with the precision of decades of practice. She fastened her mother's pearls around her neck, then stepped back to assess the full effect. The woman in the mirror looked exactly like what she was, the CEO of a billion-dollar engineering firm about to close the biggest contract of her career. No one looking at her now would dare throw her belongings across a lobby floor. Her phone had been buzzing all morning with notifications, but she hadn't checked them. Whatever was happening could wait until after the contract was signed. She'd learned long ago that dignity wasn't about immediate reaction, it was about calculated response. At 6:30 a.m., Angela Nguyen pulled into the Franklin Grand's employee parking lot, her stomach in knots. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching toward the dawn sky like metal trees. Reporters huddled near the main entrance, clutching coffee cups and checking their phones. She slipped in through the service entrance, swiping her key card with shaking hands. The usually quiet morning bustle of the hotel had been replaced by an atmosphere of barely contained panic. Junior managers hurried through the halls, whispering urgently into phones. The housekeeping staff huddled in corners, showing each other something on their phones. Her video, she realized with a jolt. "Angela!" Martha from HR Power walked toward her, heels clicking against the tile. "Mr. Whitmore needs to see you immediately." Before Angela could respond, she caught sight of Dale being escorted to the executive offices by two men in expensive suits, probably from corporate, based on their grim expressions. Dale's usual smugness had been replaced by something closer to fear. "I need to get to my station," Angela said quietly, straightening her name tag. "The morning shift. The front desk is covered," Martha cut in. "This is more important. Come with me." As they walked toward the offices, Angela noticed her hands had stopped shaking. Something had shifted inside her during the night. The truth was out now. What more could they do to her? The hotel's cafe was starting to fill with early risers, most of them stealing glances at their phones, whispering about the scandal unfolding around them. At 7:45 a.m., Carlton waited by the service entrance he'd arranged for Janice, having texted her the alternate route. He'd ensured a private table was set up in the back corner, away from prying eyes. When Janice appeared, Carlton had to admire her composure. She walked in as if she owned the building, her heels clicking confidently on the polished floor. No sign of last night's humiliation showed on her face. "Carlton," she greeted him warmly, accepting his brief hug. "I trust you slept well?" "Janice," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "I saw the video." She nodded once, setting her leather portfolio on the table. Then you understand why I've chosen to take my breakfast meetings elsewhere going forward. But first, we have a contract to finalize. From his office window overlooking the lobby, Dale Whitmore was trying to explain himself to the corporate crisis team when he spotted her. His face, already pale from stress, went chalk white. Janice Holloway, the woman whose belongings he'd thrown across his lobby just hours ago, was sitting in his hotel's cafe, calmly reviewing documents with Carlton Banks, the federal contract officer whose approval would determine the hotel's eligibility for millions in government business. The coffee cup in Dale's hand began to shake, spilling hot liquid onto his pristine white cuff. The same cuff that had been spotless when he'd grabbed a stranger's bag, assuming she didn't belong in his hotel. Now everything was stained, and no amount of careful pressing would make it right again. The private booth in the Franklin Grand's cafe offered a quiet refuge from the growing chaos outside. Morning sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows across the crisp white tablecloth. Carlton watched as Janice methodically arranged her silverware, her movements precise and unhurried. "The video has over 500,000 views now," Carlton said quietly, his coffee untouched. "People are furious. The hotel's social media is flooded with comments." Janice smoothed her napkin across her lap. "I'm sure they are." Her voice was steady, almost distant. "What's the special this morning?" "Janice!" Carlton leaned forward, his normally diplomatic tone edged with frustration. "This isn't something you can just brush aside. What happened here was wrong. Deeply wrong. You need to speak out." A server approached their table, notepad ready. Janice ordered eggs Benedict and fresh fruit. Carlton barely glanced at the menu, requesting plain toast and coffee. When they were alone again, Janice finally met his gaze. "Carlton, I've been walking through doors like this for 35 years, she said. "Sometimes they let me in. Sometimes they throw my underwear across the lobby. The only difference is, now people have phones to record it." "But this time is different," Carlton insisted. "You're not just any guest they humiliated. You're Dr. Janice Holloway. Your firm is about to land the largest infrastructure contract in Atlanta's history. The selection panel is staying in this very hotel," Janice finished for him. "Yes, I'm aware. Some of them probably watched it happen." Carlton pulled out his tablet, pulling up the morning schedule. "The final interviews start in 2 hours. Your firm is the front-runner. $900 million, Janice. This contract could transform the whole region's transportation system. Your vision, your expertise, my dignity," she cut in softly. A commotion near the cafe entrance drew their attention. Dale Whitmore stood there in his rumpled suit, looking considerably less polished than the night before. A security officer blocked his path, speaking into an earpiece. Dale's face was flushed as he gestured toward their table. "Mr. Whitmore would like a word," the security officer announced, approaching their booth. Janice dabbed her lips with her napkin, though she hadn't touched her food. "Mr. Whitmore had his chance to speak with me last night. He made his position quite clear." The security officer nodded and returned to Dale, who remained at the entrance, his hands clenched at his sides. The morning light highlighted the coffee stain on his cuff. "He doesn't know who you are," Carlton said. "None of them did. But once this gets out, that's exactly the problem, isn't it?" Janice's voice remained calm, but her eyes held a fierce intensity. "I shouldn't have to be Dr. Holloway, CEO of Holloway Civil Engineering, to be treated with basic human respect. I shouldn't need a $900 million contract in my pocket to walk through the front door of a hotel." She stood, smoothing her blazer. Carlton reached for her arm. "Janice, wait. Think about what this contract means. The jobs it'll create, the opportunities for other minority-owned firms. We can use this incident to push for real change." "If they can't see me when I walk through the front door," Janice said, gathering her portfolio. "They won't see me when I build their cities." She walked away, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The sound echoed through the suddenly quiet cafe as she passed Dale without a glance. He stood frozen, watching her leave. Dale stumbled back to his office, ignoring the crisis team's questions. His hands shook as he typed Janice Holloway into his browser. The search results loaded, and his face drained of color. There she was, dozens of articles, professional headshots, industry awards. Atlanta's engineering visionary. Black-owned firm leads bid for historic infrastructure contract. Dr. Holloway, named among Time's 100 most influential leaders. The same woman whose belongings he'd scattered across his lobby floor just hours ago. Dale slumped in his chair, staring at the images of Janice speaking at conferences, cutting ribbons at project sites, shaking hands with governors. The magnitude of his mistake began to sink in, heavy as concrete and twice as cold. Dale burst through the executive office doors, his tie askew and forehead gleaming with sweat. Inside, Regional Director Patricia Walsh held a phone to her ear while furiously typing on her laptop. 3 other executives huddled around a speakerphone on the conference table. "Understand the sensitivity of the situation," Patricia was saying. "Yes, we're preparing a statement now. Our legal team is—" She held up a finger as Dale tried to speak. "Let me call you back." She ended the call and fixed Dale with an icy stare. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I can explain," Dale started, but Patricia cut him off. "The video has gone national. CNN picked it up 10 minutes ago. Our phones are ringing off the hook. And the Arden Franklin grand disgrace is trending in 3 major cities." The speakerphone crackled. "This is James from Legal again. The woman in the video has been identified as Dr. Janice Holloway. She's—" "I know who she is now," Dale interrupted. "But last night, she wasn't dressed like— she didn't present herself as—" "As what, Dale?" Patricia's voice could have frozen fire. "As someone worthy of basic respect?" A young woman from the PR team cleared her throat. "We've drafted an initial statement." She read from her tablet. "The Franklin Grand Hotel is aware of an incident involving a guest and takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. We are conducting a thorough investigation and remain committed to providing excellent service to all our valued customers." "It's too vague," one of the executives said. "We need to address the racial element head-on." "No," the legal voice countered. "Absolutely not. Any admission of racial bias could expose us to—" "She's up for a $900 million federal contract," Dale blurted out. "She's presenting to the selection committee today, in this hotel." The room fell silent. Patricia pressed her fingers to her temples. "Get me Angela Nguyen. Now." 10 minutes later, Angela sat rigid in a chair before the assembled executives. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap. "Did you record the incident?" Patricia asked. "Yes," Angela admitted. Her voice was quiet but steady. "And did you share this recording?" "I posted it to my private social account. I didn't make it public." The PR woman leaned forward. "But someone shared it." "I can't control what others do," Angela said. Dale paced behind Patricia's chair. "She should be fired immediately. It's a clear violation of—" "Sit down, Dale," Patricia snapped. "You've done enough damage." The speakerphone came to life again. "We're seeing movement on social media. Dr. Holloway's supporters are organizing a protest outside the hotel at 3. Angela stood up suddenly. "May I go?" "My shift started 20 minutes ago." Patricia waved her away, turning back to the crisis team. As Angela reached the door, Dale called out, "This isn't over." She paused, hand on the doorknob. "No, Mr. Whitmore, I don't think it is." Across town, in a federal office building, Carlton Banks sat in his private office, surrounded by concerned faces. His political advisor, a sharp-dressed woman named Rebecca, paced the floor. "This is explosive," Rebecca said. "The timing couldn't be worse. We've got the governor's office calling, civil rights groups demanding statements, and the selection committee is split on how to proceed." Carlton loosened his tie. "The presentation starts in 40 minutes. Dr. Holloway's firm is the most qualified bidder, and everyone in this room knows it." "But the optics," Rebecca insisted. "If we award the contract now, some will say it's because of the incident. If we don't, we'll be accused of retaliation." "The optics," Carlton's voice carried a dangerous edge. "A highly qualified black woman was publicly humiliated in the same hotel where she's supposed to present a billion-dollar infrastructure proposal, and you're worried about optics?" Rebecca had the grace to look embarrassed. "I'm just saying we need to be strategic about—" "No," Carlton cut her off. "We need to be right. Dr. Holloway earned her place in that boardroom long before last night. She'll present her proposal, and we'll evaluate it on merit. That's what she would want." The room fell quiet. Carlton checked his watch and stood. "I need to get to the presentation room." At 11:55, camera crews had already gathered in the hotel lobby. Word had spread about the upcoming presentation, and reporters jostled for position near the elevators. Inside the federal boardroom on the 14th floor, selection committee members whispered among themselves. Some glanced at their phones, watching the viral video again. Others reviewed the thick proposal documents before them. At exactly noon, the door opened. Dr. Janice Holloway entered, her stride confident, her expression serene. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Dale's monthly salary. Camera shutters clicked as recognition spread through the room. She set her presentation materials on the podium and surveyed the faces before her. Some showed sympathy, others discomfort. A few couldn't meet her eyes. Carlton, seated at the center of the long table, gave her an almost imperceptible nod. She returned it, then opened her portfolio. The cameras continued to click, documenting a moment that would soon become much more than anyone in the room yet realized. Dr. Janice Holloway stood at the podium, her presence commanding the federal boardroom's attention. The morning sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished conference table where 20 selection committee members sat with their notepads and tablets ready. She took a measured breath and began. "Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Janice Holloway, CEO of Holloway Civil Engineering Group. Today, I'll present our comprehensive proposal for the Interstate Infrastructure Renewal Initiative." Her voice carried clearly through the room, steady and professional. No hint of the previous night's humiliation colored her words or demeanor. She clicked to her first slide, displaying a map highlighted with proposed construction zones across 10 states. "Our approach focuses on 3 key areas," she continued, gesturing to the projection. "First, sustainable materials innovation. Second, accelerated construction timelines. And third, community-centered design principles." Carlton Banks watched from his seat, noting how several committee members who had been scrolling through news feeds on their phones now set them aside, drawn in by Janice's commanding expertise. She moved through complex engineering concepts with remarkable clarity, making even the most technical aspects accessible. "In Atlanta," she explained, pointing to a detailed diagram, "we've identified 17 critical bridge structures requiring immediate attention. Our proposal includes a novel reinforcement technique that will extend their lifespan by 40 years while reducing maintenance costs by 30%. A committee member raised his hand. "Dr. Holloway, these numbers seem ambitious. How can you guarantee such results?" Janice smiled slightly, clicking to her next slide. "Because we've already done it." The screen filled with images of completed projects. "These are bridges we've restored in Chicago and Detroit using the same methodology. The data speaks for itself." She walked them through case studies, cost projections, and implementation schedules. Her command of the material was absolute. each answer demonstrating decades of expertise. The initial whispers and sideways glances about the viral video faded as she continued to impress. Environmental impact is crucial, Janice said, moving to a section about green technology. Our design incorporates recycled materials and solar-powered monitoring systems, reducing both waste and long-term operating costs. Carlton noticed heads nodding around the table. Dr. Sarah Chen, the environmental impact specialist, leaned forward with particular interest. "Your carbon reduction metrics are remarkable," she commented. "How did you achieve this balance between durability and sustainability?" Janice launched into a detailed explanation that had several committee members taking rapid notes. Her hands moved with precision as she sketched a quick diagram on the whiteboard, illustrating her point. "The key is in the material composition," she explained, drawing molecular structures with practiced ease. "By adjusting the ratio of recycled components, we maintain structural integrity while significantly reducing environmental impact." 2 hours into the presentation, there wasn't a distracted face in the room. Janice had methodically addressed every potential concern, from budget oversight to community impact. Her responses to questions were thorough yet concise, demonstrating not just technical knowledge, but practical experience. "Let's discuss community engagement," she said, moving to her final section. "Infrastructure isn't just about concrete and steel. It's about people." She clicked to a slide showing diverse community meetings. Every project includes local input sessions, job training programs, and small business participation opportunities. The committee members exchanged impressed looks. Carlton watched as Dr. James Wilson, known for his tough questions, raised his hand. "Dr. Holloway," he began, "your technical proposals are sound, but this is a massive undertaking. How can you ensure your team can handle the scope?" Janice didn't hesitate. "Our firm has completed 17 major infrastructure projects in the past decade, all on time and under budget." She clicked through slides showing completed works. "But more importantly, we've built a network of partnerships with local contractors and engineering firms across all 10 states. This isn't just about Holloway civil engineering. It's about creating a sustainable infrastructure ecosystem." As she moved toward her conclusion, the energy in the room was palpable. Committee members who had started the session with skepticism now leaned forward, engaged and attentive. "In closing," Janice said, her voice carrying the same strength it had held throughout, "this initiative represents more than just infrastructure renewal. It's an investment in our community's future. Our proposal offers the most comprehensive, sustainable, and cost-effective approach to meeting these challenges." She clicked to her final slide, displaying a striking before and after comparison of a transformed urban landscape. "Thank you for your time. I welcome any additional questions." The room erupted in applause. Several committee members stood, others nodding in appreciation. Carlton rose with them, his face showing quiet pride. The standing ovation continued for nearly a minute, a rare occurrence in federal contract presentations. As the applause died down, questions came rapidly. Each one met with Janice's characteristic poise and expertise. The technical team was particularly impressed with her detailed responses about material science innovations. The financial officers nodded approvingly at her budget projections. After the final question was answered and the room began to clear, Carlton gathered his materials slowly, watching as committee members approached Janice with business cards and handshakes. The respect in their faces was unmistakable. Dr. Wilson, the tough questioner from earlier, stopped by Carlton's chair. He glanced around to ensure others weren't within earshot. "Thanks," he said quietly. "That was impressive as hell. But we can't afford to let this be swept under the rug. The media's going to ask if we still gave her the contract." The afternoon sun cast harsh shadows through the Franklin Grand Hotel's lobby windows as Dale Whitmore adjusted his tie, standing before a hastily assembled press backdrop. Local news cameras pointed at his face, which struggled to maintain its usual authority. "Good afternoon," he began, his voice carrying a rehearsed steadiness. "On behalf of the Franklin Grand Hotel, I want to address the incident that occurred last night." He glanced down at the prepared statement in his hands. "We apologize to anyone who was offended by what transpired. The Franklin Grand has always prided itself on providing excellent service to all our guests." The statement aired on the local news stations within the hour. On Channel 5, the anchor's expression remained skeptical as she reported, "The hotel's response has been criticized as inadequate, with many noting the absence of a direct apology to Dr. Janice Holloway, the accomplished civil engineer who was publicly humiliated." In the hotel's back office, Angela Nguyen watched the coverage on her phone, her stomach turning. The comments under the news clips were brutal. "Anyone who was offended? How about apologizing to the black woman you humiliated? Classic non-apology. They're not sorry it happened. They're sorry they got caught. Dr. Holloway has 3 engineering degrees and built half of Atlanta's new bridges. The disrespect is unreal." The hotel's marketing director burst into the break room, face flushed. "It's getting worse. The stock's down 6% and falling. Corporate is freaking out." Angela quickly pocketed her phone, but not before seeing a new hashtag trending: Chaber boycott Franklin Grand. At the front desk, the phones wouldn't stop ringing. Sarah, another clerk, juggled multiple lines. "Yes, ma'am, I understand you want to cancel your conference booking. Yes, I'll transfer you to events. No, the cancellation fee will be waived." The lobby, usually bustling with afternoon check-ins, stood nearly empty. A group of business travelers wheeled their suitcases toward the exit, having just checked out early. Their conversation carried across the marble floor. "Can't stay here. My company has a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of thing. My wife would kill me if she knew I stayed after seeing that video." Angela's supervisor appeared at her elbow. "Ms. Nguyen? HR needs to see you. Now." The walk to the Human Resources office felt endless. Through the glass walls of the management offices, Angela saw executives in urgent conversation, gesturing at phones and laptops. A news ticker on a mounted TV showed the hotel's parent company's plummeting stock price. The HR director, Mrs. Patterson, sat behind her desk with a severe expression. A security guard stood by the door. "Ms. Nguyen, we've concluded our investigation into last night's incident." Mrs. Patterson's voice was clipped. "The unauthorized recording and release of hotel security footage is a serious violation of company policy." Angela's heart pounded. "But I didn't. Mr. Whitmore has provided evidence that you were the only staff member in position to record the incident. Furthermore, the video was traced to your social media account. That was a private post, which went viral and has caused significant damage to this institution." Mrs. Patterson slid a document across the desk. "We're terminating your employment, effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect your belongings." Angela's hands trembled as she stood. "What about what Mr. Whitmore did? The way he treated Dr. Holloway? That matter is being handled separately. Please sign here." The security guard stepped forward, making it clear there would be no further discussion. At her locker, Angela's co-workers avoided eye contact as she packed her things into a cardboard box. Sarah, her friend from the front desk, snuck over while the guard was distracted. "Dale told them you planned this," Sarah whispered. "Said you were trying to damage the hotel's reputation. They're making you the scapegoat." Angela's vision blurred with tears as she cleaned out her locker. Photos of her family, a spare pair of shoes, her Employee of the Month certificate from last year, all went into the box. In the employee bathroom, she splashed water on her face and stared at her reflection. Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone and bought a prepaid calling card from an online service. Using the burner number, she composed a text to Dr. Holloway's business contact. "Dr. Holloway, I'm the front desk clerk who recorded what happened. I'm so sorry for what they did to you. They just fired me for the video, but I don't regret it. What happened to you wasn't right. Thank you for showing such dignity. Angela." As security escorted her through the staff exit, Angela saw Dale being ushered into another meeting, his face tight with stress. The sound of phones ringing followed her out into the afternoon heat. On her phone, notifications continued to pour in. The National Association of Black Engineers had just announced they were relocating their annual conference. 3 major corporations had suspended their corporate travel accounts. A prominent civil rights attorney was calling for a full investigation. Before the door closed behind her, Angela heard a manager's voice. "Dale, corporate needs you to take paid leave, effective immediately." She stepped into the sunlight, holding her box of belongings, as another news van pulled up to the curb. The Atlanta skyline shimmered in the late afternoon heat as Janice Holloway sat on her hotel suite's balcony. From 15 stories up, the city traffic moved like silent toys below, streams of red and white lights flowing through concrete channels. She'd changed out of her presentation suit into a comfortable silk blouse, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed messages on her tablet. The support pouring in was overwhelming. Former classmates from Howard University's engineering program, colleagues from across the industry. Even competitors had reached out to express their outrage at her treatment. Her company's social media accounts had gained thousands of followers in the past few hours. A gentle knock at her door broke the quiet. She knew who it would be. "Come in, Carlton," she called, not moving from her spot on the balcony. Carlton Banks entered, still in his formal federal attire, but with his tie loosened slightly. He carried a thick manila envelope and wore the weary expression of a man who'd spent hours in delicate negotiations. "Beautiful view," he said, joining her at the balcony railing. "Though I imagine you're not thinking about the scenery." Janice smiled softly, setting her tablet aside. "Actually, I am. See that bridge there?" She pointed to a graceful span in the distance. "My firm designed the support structure upgrades 5 years ago. We finished 3 months early, came in under budget." "I remember that project," Carlton nodded. "It's why you made the shortlist for this contract." He patted the envelope. "Speaking of which..." Janice turned to face him fully, her expression calm but resolute. "Before you open that, Carlton, I need you to know something." "Janice, I'm declining the contract." Carlton's shoulders tensed, but he kept his voice steady. "I thought you might say that, but please, hear me out first." He pulled up the other balcony chair and sat, placing the envelope between them on the small table. The board's vote was unanimous. $900 million with additional oversight authority built in. You'd have unprecedented control over supplier diversity requirements, apprenticeship programs. "It's not about the money or the power, Carlton." Janice's voice remained soft, but carried the weight of decades of similar moments. "If I accept this contract now, what message does that send? That you're too professional to let one racist hotel manager derail your company's future? That you're rising above it?" Janice shook her head. "No. It would say that this system can humiliate us, degrade us, throw our dignity on the floor like trash, and we'll still come back with a smile if the price is right." She gestured at the city below. "How many other black women have been treated that way in this city? This week? This morning? Women who didn't have viral videos or federal contracts to shield them?" Carlton leaned forward, his voice urgent. "Then use this position to change things. The contract gives you real power. Power within their framework. Power they can grant or withdraw." Janice picked up the envelope, weighing it in her hands. I've played that game for 30 years, Carlton. Getting the degrees they said we needed. Joining the committees. Speaking softly. Dressing perfectly. Never showing anger. She placed the envelope back down. And yet last night, in my comfortable travel clothes, I was still just another black body to be removed from their lobby. I understand your anger. That's just it. I'm not angry. Janice's calm was absolute. I'm wide awake, and I'm done pretending that working within this system will fix it. Carlton stood, pacing the small balcony. Janice, listen to me. If you walk away, this contract goes to Whitefield Construction. Their safety record is questionable. Their diversity numbers are abysmal. They've been cited 3 times for wage theft from minority subcontractors. He stopped, gripping the railing. All the progress we've fought for. Progress? Janice raised an eyebrow. You saw the video, Carlton. Tell me what's changed. Which is exactly why we need you in this position. Think of the next generation of black engineers. I am thinking of them. Janice stood, her presence somehow filling the space despite her modest height. I'm thinking of what they'll face if we keep teaching them that success means swallowing their dignity. That power only comes from playing by rules designed to exclude them. Carlton's shoulders slumped slightly. The governor's office is already calling. The political fallout. Let them feel it. Janice's voice carried no anger, only certainty. Let them explain to their voters why the most qualified firm walked away. Let them justify choosing Whitefield's mediocrity over actual excellence. Let the system feel the weight of its choices. You've worked your whole life for an opportunity like this. No. Janice smiled, genuine warmth in her expression. I've worked my whole life to build something valuable, something excellent, something that can't be ignored or dismissed. She touched the envelope lightly. And now I'm proving its worth by walking away from anyone who doesn't recognize that value up front. Carlton looked at her for a long moment, seeing not just his colleague, but a reflection of every battle he'd fought in his own career, every compromise, every silent swallowing of pride. The board won't understand, he said finally. They don't need to understand. They just need to learn. Carlton picked up the envelope, squaring his shoulders. I respect your decision, but I hope you know what you're doing. I do. Janice turned back to the city view, her posture straight and dignified. Thank you, Carlton, for everything you tried to do. The hotel's grand ballroom had been transformed into a makeshift press area. Local news crews jostled for position, while national outlets joined via video link. The podium stood empty, flanked by the logos of 6 major engineering firms. Janice Holloway entered precisely at 9 a.m., wearing a tailored navy suit that radiated authority. Her heels clicked steadily across the hardwood floor. No papers, no notes, just her tablet, and the same quiet dignity she'd maintained throughout the ordeal. Camera shutters clicked rapidly as she took her position. The room fell silent. Good morning, she began, her voice clear and measured. I'm Dr. Janice Holloway, CEO of Holloway Civil Engineering Group. Yesterday, our firm was offered a $900 million federal infrastructure contract. We declined it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Janice continued without pause. Today, I'm here to announce something more significant. I'm joined, virtually and in spirit, by the leaders of 5 other Black-owned engineering firms: Thompson and Associates, Barrett Design Group, Williams Infrastructure Solutions, Morgan Engineering, and Robinson Technical Services. She tapped her tablet, and the screens behind her displayed the company's impressive portfolios: bridges, highways, airports, and urban developments across America. Together, our 6 firms represent over $3.2 billion in annual projects. We employ thousands of professionals across 30 states. Our work literally shapes the cities you live in and the roads you drive on. Her gaze swept the room. And as of this morning, we are formally announcing our withdrawal from any business relationships with institutions that enable or excuse racial discrimination. The room erupted in questions. Janice raised a hand, maintaining control. Let me be specific. We begin with the Franklin Grand Hotel chain and its parent company, Meridian Hospitality Group. Their major investors include Vista Capital Partners, Blackstone Group, and Sterling Equity Fund. She listed each name deliberately. Their primary corporate partners include National Business Travel, Elite Rewards Program, and Global Conventions Limited. Reporters frantically took notes as she continued. To these organizations, we say, you have 30 days to demonstrate meaningful, verifiable changes in your diversity and inclusion practices. Not statements, not committees. Changes. After that, our alliance will decline all contracts, cancel existing agreements where legally possible, and recommend our peers do the same. A reporter called out, "Dr. Holloway, isn't this potentially damaging to your own businesses?" "Excellence doesn't need toxic partnerships," Janice replied smoothly. "Our work speaks for itself. And we're prepared to lose money to make money, lose its power to excuse discrimination." Her tablet chimed softly. She glanced at it and allowed herself a small smile. "I'm now receiving word that the CEOs of 3 major tech companies have already announced their support for our position. 2 state governors have pledged to review their contracts with the named organizations." She looked directly into the main camera. "This is how change happens. Not through endless dialogue about doing better, but through concrete consequences for doing wrong." Social media counters on the screens behind her showed the hashtags #ChatGPT of Engineering Equality and Holloway Alliance trending globally. Celebrity accounts with millions of followers began sharing the press conference stream. Across town, Dale Whitmore sat in his home office, watching the broadcast on his laptop. His phone buzzed, an email notification. Subject line, "Termination of employment." Sender, Meridian Hospitality Group HR Department. His hands shook as he opened it. "Dear Mr. Whitmore, this letter serves as notice of your immediate termination from Franklin Grand Hotel and all Meridian Hospitality properties. Your recent actions have caused irreparable damage." Meanwhile, in her small apartment, Angela Nguyen was updating her resume when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Ms. Nguyen, this is Sarah Chen, Executive Assistant to Dr. Janice Holloway. Do you have a moment to discuss a position in project oversight?" Angela sat down hard in her chair, her free hand covering her mouth. At the press conference, Janice was wrapping up. "The time for polite requests for respect is over. To those who think their power shields them from consequences. Watch what happens when excellence refuses to work with prejudice." She gathered her tablet. "Thank you for your attention. No questions." She walked off stage to the sound of frantic reporter questions and camera clicks, her heels striking the floor with the same steady rhythm as when she entered. Behind her, the screens showed the hotel chain's stock price dropping in real time. The morning sun cast long shadows across the construction site as Janice Holloway walked purposefully through the organized chaos. Her steel-toed boots crunched on gravel while workers nodded respectfully as she passed. Behind her, Angela Nguyen followed carefully in her new safety gear, still getting used to wearing a hard hat. "Watch your step here," Janice called back, pointing to some uneven ground. Construction sites are like living things, always changing, always moving. Angela stepped carefully around a pile of rebar. "It's so different from the hotel. Everything feels real." "That's because it is real," Janice said, stopping to survey the foundation work ahead of them. "What we build here will serve communities for generations. No pretense, no artificial hierarchies, Just solid engineering and honest work. They reached a clearing where project manager Marcus Thompson was reviewing blueprints with his team. He waved them over, spreading the plans wider on a makeshift table. "Dr. Holloway, Ms. Nguyen, perfect timing. We're just finalizing the support structure modifications you suggested." Angela leaned in, trying to make sense of the technical drawings. Janice noticed her interest and pointed to specific sections, explaining in simple terms how each element worked together. "See these connection points? They're like the bones in a body. Each one has to be strong enough to support not just its own weight, but everything connected to it." Janice's voice took on a teaching tone. That's true in engineering, and it's true in society. One weak point, one compromised connection, can threaten the whole structure. Angela nodded slowly, understanding the metaphor. Like how one discriminatory manager can poison an entire organization. Exactly. Janice smiled. "You're catching on quick." Marcus excused himself to handle a delivery issue, leaving Janice and Angela alone with the plans. The sounds of construction, beeping trucks, clanking metal, shouted instructions, created a steady backdrop. "The hotel thing," Angela said hesitantly. "It's bigger than just what happened that night, isn't it?" Janice straightened up, looking out over the site. "Much bigger. What Dale did was ugly. But it wasn't unique. It was just visible." She turned to face Angela directly. "Every day, in lobbies and boardrooms and offices across this country, people like him make quiet decisions about who belongs and who doesn't, who gets the contract, who gets the promotion, who gets treated with basic dignity." A crane swung overhead, lowering a massive steel beam into place. They watched it descend with precise control. "But you can't fight what you can't see," Angela said, thinking out loud. "That's right. So when they make it visible, when they show their prejudice openly, that's actually an opportunity." Janice gestured at the construction site around them. "Look at all this. We're building something that will last 100 years. But first, we had to tear down what wasn't working. Sometimes destruction is part of progress." Angela's phone buzzed. She checked it quickly, then looked up with wide eyes. The hotel chain's stock just dropped another 12%. 3 major investment firms announced they're divesting. Janice nodded calmly. "Money talks, always has, but now it's saying something different." They walked toward the site office, a converted shipping container painted in company colors. Inside, a small TV mounted in the corner was showing business news. The ticker at the bottom displayed breaking updates about Meridian Hospitality Group. Dirtiu, in response to mounting pressure, the board of directors has released a comprehensive statement acknowledging systemic failures in diversity and inclusion practices. The statement outlines immediate actions, including mandatory anti-bias training, revised hiring protocols, and the establishment of an independent oversight committee. Angela watched the news scroll by. "They're really feeling it, aren't they?" "They're feeling their investors feel it," Janice corrected. "Change happens when power faces consequences. The hotel chain isn't special. They're just the first domino." She sat down at a simple desk, gesturing for Angela to take the other chair. "There are thousands of institutions that operate the same way. They're just better at hiding it. So, what happens next? We keep building." Janice opened her laptop, showing Angela a spreadsheet of ongoing projects. Not just buildings and bridges, but new ways of doing business. New standards for what's acceptable. New consequences for old prejudices. Through the office window, they could see workers setting foundation forms with careful precision. Each movement was purposeful, measured, part of a larger plan. Angela's expression turned serious. "I've been meaning to thank you. For the job, for everything. But it feels bigger than just helping me." "It is." Janice smiled warmly. "You did the right thing that night, Angela." You saw something wrong and you didn't look away. That's rare. Now you're in a position to help change things from the inside. She gestured at the project plans spread across the desk. This is how we rebuild the system, one blueprint at a time. Their conversation was interrupted by Janice's phone ringing. The caller ID showed Carlton Banks. "Excuse me," Janice said, standing. "I need to take this." She stepped outside, leaving Angela studying the project documents with newfound purpose. Through the window, Angela could see Janice's expression shift from neutral to interested as she listened to Carlton. After a few minutes, Janice returned, a subtle smile playing at her lips. "Good news?" Angela asked. "The department wants to renegotiate the contract," Janice replied, sitting back down. "On our terms this time." Angela grinned. "Are you going to accept?" Before Janice could answer, Marcus rushed in with an urgent question about the support beams, and they all turned their attention back to the immediate work at hand. The future would unfold in its own time. Right now, there was building to be done. The Federal Building's conference room felt different this time. Janice sat straight-backed in her chair, surrounded by thick stacks of contract documents. Afternoon sun streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished oak table. 6 government officials sat opposite her, their expressions a mix of discomfort and resignation. Carlton Banks occupied the chair at the head of the table, his presence both official and reassuring. He wore his usual crisp suit, but today's tie was a deep purple, a subtle show of solidarity that didn't go unnoticed. "Dr. Holloway," began Richard Martinez, the lead contract negotiator, "we've reviewed your revised proposals." He shuffled through papers, though Janice knew he had memorized every detail. $900 million is already a historic amount. These additional terms are unprecedented. Janice remained still, her face calm. "So was dumping my belongings across a hotel lobby, Mr. Martinez. Yet here we are." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. One of the younger officials shifted in his seat. "Let's review the key points," Janice continued, her voice steady and clear. She opened a leather portfolio and began laying out documents with practiced precision. The base contract remains at $900 million, covering infrastructure improvements across 10 states. "That hasn't changed," Martinez nodded stiffly. "Correct. What has changed," Janice said, "is the scope of authority. My firm will oversee all diversity compliance measures for federal infrastructure projects in the region. We'll have final approval on vendor selection, ensuring that qualified minority-owned businesses receive fair consideration." "That's highly unusual," protested Sandra Chen, the department's legal counsel. "Contractor oversight of other contractors is exactly what's needed," Carlton interrupted smoothly. "Given recent events, I believe we can all agree that our current oversight systems have blind spots." Janice pulled out another document. "We've included specific metrics. 30% minimum participation from minority-owned firms, quarterly audits, transparent reporting, real consequences for discrimination, not just empty policies." 10 years is a long commitment," Martinez said, tapping his pen nervously on the table. "Change takes time," Janice replied. "We're not just building roads and bridges. We're building a new way of doing business." The room grew warm as afternoon sun intensified through the windows. An assistant quietly adjusted the blinds. Sandra Chen leaned forward. "Dr. Holloway, while we respect your expertise and your company's track record, this level of control over vendor selection could be seen as what?" Janice's voice remained calm, but took on an edge of steel. "As threatening to the status quo? That's precisely the point." Carlton cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a brief recess to—" "No," Janice said firmly. "We finish this now." She stood slowly, placing both hands on the table. "For decades, I've watched qualified firms get passed over because they didn't fit someone's image of what a contractor should look like. I've seen brilliant engineers relegated to secondary roles because nobody in power looked like them. She met each person's eyes in turn. That ends today. Martinez wiped his forehead with a handkerchief. The political implications are exactly why this matters, Carlton finished. We have a chance to set a new standard, to show that federal contracts aren't just about building infrastructure, but about building equity. Janice sat back down, her posture relaxed but unmovable. The terms are fair. The goals are achievable. The only question is whether you're ready to be part of real change. The officials huddled together, whispering urgently. Papers shuffled. Someone's phone buzzed, but was quickly silenced. After several tense minutes, Martinez straightened his tie. We'll need assurances about cost controls and timeline management. They're in Section 4, Janice replied, sliding another document forward, along with performance bonds and quarterly milestones. And the vendor selection process will be transparent and merit-based, Janice cut in, with clear appeals, procedures, and independent review panels. Sandra Chen studied the paperwork carefully. These oversight provisions are actually quite thorough. Of course they are, Janice said. I've spent 30 years watching how the system fails. I know exactly how to fix it. Carlton checked his watch. The secretary's office is waiting for our decision. They'd like this resolved today. Another round of whispered conversations. More paper shuffling. Martinez made several calls from the corner of the room, speaking in low tones. Finally, after what felt like hours but was really just 45 minutes, Martinez returned to the table. We accept your terms, Dr. Holloway. He managed a tight smile. With the provisions as written. Janice nodded once, her expression unchanged. Have the final documents prepared. I'll sign them now. The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of signatures and initials. Notaries were called, stamps pressed into paper. With each signature, Janice felt the weight of history. Not just her own journey, but the paths of countless others who had been denied their chance. When the last page was signed, Carlton stood and extended his hand. Congratulations, Dr. Holloway. This is significant. Thank you, Carlton. She shook his hand firmly, then gathered her things with deliberate calm. Outside the conference room, Janice found a quiet corner and pulled out her phone. Her mother answered on the first ring, as if she'd been waiting. Mama, Janice said softly, her professional mask finally softening. It's done. But we didn't just win a contract. We shifted the standard. Dale Whitmore stared at his laptop screen, refreshing his email for the 100th time that morning. His home office, once a place of pride with its mahogany desk and industry awards, now felt like a prison. Empty coffee cups littered the surface, and 3-day-old stubble darkened his usually clean-shaven face. Dear Mr. Whitmore, read the latest rejection email, while we appreciate your interest, at this time, wish you the best in your future endeavors. He deleted it with a sharp click, adding it to the growing pile of rejections. 27 applications, 0 interviews. Even the budget motels weren't calling back. His phone buzzed, another news alert with his name in it. He knew he shouldn't look, but he clicked anyway. From executive suite to unemployment. How casual racism ended one manager's career. The article featured that damned video still. Him, red-faced and pointing, while Dr. Holloway's belongings lay scattered across the marble floor. The image had become a symbol, used in corporate training sessions and diversity workshops across the country. Industry experts cite the Whitmore incident as a watershed moment, he read, his stomach churning. A clear example of how unconscious bias can manifest in customer service, leading to immediate and lasting professional consequences. Dale slammed the laptop shut. He grabbed his keys and headed to the local coffee shop, the only place he still felt comfortable going. His usual morning spot near his old hotel had become impossible. Too many former colleagues, too many knowing looks. The barista's smile faltered slightly when she saw him. That happened everywhere now. People recognized him, then tried to pretend they didn't. "Just a black coffee," he muttered, sliding exact change across the counter. On the shop's TV, a local news station was covering a youth leadership rally downtown. Dale's coffee stopped halfway to his mouth when he recognized the speaker taking the stage. Angela Nguyen looked different now. Gone was the timid hotel uniform, replaced by a smart blazer and confident posture. The Chiron identified her as Community Advocacy Director, Infrastructure Equity Initiative. When I saw injustice happening right in front of me, Angela's voice filled the coffee shop. I had a choice to make: stay quiet and keep my job, or speak up and risk everything. Dale's hands began to shake. He remembered how he'd tried to blame her for the video leak, how he'd demanded her firing in those chaotic final days. "Many people ask me if I was scared," Angela continued, addressing a crowd of eager young faces. "Of course I was. But courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified." The coffee shop had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. Dale felt their sideways glances, their subtle shifting away from his table. "That night taught me something important," Angela said, her voice growing stronger. "Systems don't change themselves. People change them. Sometimes it just takes one person willing to stand up, to record, to speak out." Applause interrupted her speech. Dale noticed several people in the coffee shop nodding along. "Today, I work with amazing leaders like Dr. Janice Holloway, making sure opportunities are truly equal, making sure no one else has to feel small or unwelcome because of what they look like or how they dress." More applause. Dale's coffee had gone cold. On screen, the camera panned to show a live stream setup near the stage. On one of the monitors, Dr. Holloway's face appeared, watching remotely from what looked like a construction site. She was smiling, nodding along with Angela's words. "So to every young person here today," Angela's voice cracked with emotion, "remember this: your courage matters. Your voice matters. And when you see something wrong, don't wait for someone else to fix it. Be the one who takes a stand." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Dr. Holloway's smile widened on the monitor, her approval clear even through the digital feed. Dale left his half-finished coffee and walked out, head down, avoiding eye contact. His phone buzzed again in his pocket. Another rejection email, he was sure. He didn't bother checking it. The afternoon sun felt too bright, too exposing. He hurried to his car, parked far from the shop's entrance. As he slid behind the wheel, his eyes caught his reflection in the rearview mirror. The face that looked back was unfamiliar, haunted, aged, stripped of its former authority. He started the engine but didn't move. On the radio, a reporter was summarizing Angela's speech, calling it a powerful reminder of how individual actions can spark lasting change. Dale switched off the radio. The silence felt heavier than any words could. The morning sun painted Atlanta's skyline in shades of gold and promise. Construction equipment stood ready, decorated with ribbons and banners, at the future site of the Southeast Transit Hub. The lot, once a forgotten industrial wasteland, now hummed with anticipation. Rows of white folding chairs filled quickly as community members arrived. Children from the local middle school band unpacked their instruments, their excitement visible as they practiced scales. News vans lined the street, their satellite dishes reaching toward the clear blue sky. Angela Nguyen moved through the crowd with purpose, clipboard in hand, directing volunteers and checking details. Her new blazer, emblazoned with the Infrastructure Equity Initiative logo, caught the morning light. She paused to adjust a microphone stand on the temporary stage. "Audio check complete?" she asked a technician, who gave her a thumbs up. "Perfect. And the live stream is ready for the satellite offices?" Carlton Banks arrived, surrounded by federal officials in dark suits. He broke away to greet Angela with a warm smile. "Everything looks fantastic. Dr. Holloway would be proud of your work here." Angela beamed. "Speaking of..." She checked her watch. She should be arriving any minute. As if on cue, a black SUV pulled up. Dr. Janice Holloway stepped out, wearing a crisp navy suit and carrying a leather portfolio. The crowd's energy shifted, conversations hushing as people noticed her presence. "Dr. Holloway?" Several community leaders moved to greet her. She took each handshake with grace, stopping to chat with elderly residents and young students alike. Angela approached with a bottle of water and the final schedule. "Good morning, Dr. Holloway. We're right on time. The mayor just arrived, and the community band is ready whenever you are." Janice squeezed Angela's shoulder. "Thank you, Angela. And please, after everything we've been through, I think you can call me Janice." They shared a knowing look, both remembering that night at the Franklin Grand Hotel. How different things were now. The mayor took the stage first, speaking about progress and partnership. But the crowd's anticipation was palpable. They were waiting for Janice. When she finally stepped up to the podium, the audience fell silent. Camera shutters clicked rapidly. The middle school band lowered their instruments, every young face fixed on her. "Good morning," Janice began, her voice clear and steady. "1 year ago, I stood in a hotel lobby not far from here, watching my personal belongings scattered across marble floors." She paused, letting the memory sink in. "Many expected me to respond with anger, to shout, to threaten, to match disrespect with disrespect. The crowd was absolutely still. But I've learned something in my 30 years of building bridges, tunnels, and transit hubs. The strongest structures aren't built with force. They're built with precision, with patience, with unwavering commitment to doing what's right." She gestured to the construction site behind her. "This hub will connect communities that have been separated for generations. It will create jobs, reduce commute times, and bring opportunities to neighborhoods long overlooked. But more than that, it represents what happens when we refuse to accept the barriers others place in our path." Angela, standing at the side of the stage, felt tears welling up. She saw several audience members dabbing their eyes, too. "This project isn't just about concrete and steel," Janice continued. "It's about visibility, about dignity, about standing your ground without losing your grace." She looked directly at Angela. "About having the courage to witness injustice and choose to act." The crowd applauded. Angela straightened her shoulders, feeling the weight of that moment all over again. "When they tried to make me invisible that night, they didn't realize they were dealing with someone who had spent a lifetime being seen." Janice's voice grew stronger. Someone who had earned every credential, broken every barrier, and still kept her humanity intact. Someone who understood that true power isn't in how loud you can yell. It's in how firmly you can stand. More applause broke out. Carlton Banks nodded firmly from his seat, pride evident on his face. "Today, we break ground on more than a transit hub. We break ground on a new way of doing business, a new standard of accountability, a new understanding that dignity isn't something that can be taken away. It can only be revealed in how we rise above those who try to deny it." The middle school band began a soft drum roll as Janice moved toward the ceremonial ribbon. Angela handed her the golden scissors. "To every person who has ever been told they don't belong," Janice raised the scissors. "To every child who has been judged by appearance rather than ability. To every dreamer who refused to let rejection define them, this moment is yours too." The scissors glinted in the sunlight, Because visibility isn't just about being seen. It's about being remembered. And after today, no one will forget what happens when we stand together, work together, and build together. With a clean snip, the ribbon fell. The band burst into triumphant music. The crowd rose to their feet, cheering and applauding. Confetti caught the breeze, dancing over the construction equipment like multicolored promises. Angela watched as Janice was surrounded by well-wishers and reporters. The woman who had walked away from that hotel with quiet dignity now stood tall, victorious not through vengeance, but through vision, through turning humiliation into opportunity, through building something bigger than herself. The band played on, their young faces shining with pride, their music carrying across the lot, where soon thousands would pass through daily, never knowing the full story of how this hub came to be, but feeling its impact all the same. 6 months had passed since the groundbreaking. Atlanta's winter sun cast long shadows through the revolving doors of the Franklin Grand Hotel as Janice Holloway stepped inside. The marble floors gleamed just as she remembered, but everything else had changed. Where there once hung bland corporate artwork, vibrant pieces by local black artists now adorned the walls. A striking portrait of a young girl with natural hair dominated the entrance, her eyes fierce and knowing. Below it, a small plaque read, "Commissioned by New Vision Hospitality Group, celebrating Atlanta's cultural heritage." Janice adjusted her cashmere coat and walked to the front desk, her heels clicking steadily on the polished floor. The same sound they'd made that night, though now it carried a different weight. A young man in a crisp uniform smiled warmly. "Welcome to the Franklin Grand. How may I assist you today?" "Checking in." "Holloway, Janice." The clerk's eyes flickered with recognition, but his professionalism never wavered. "Of course, Dr. Holloway. We've been expecting you. Your suite is ready." As he processed her check-in, Janice noticed the diversity training certificate displayed prominently on the desk. Next to it sat a small sign. "All are welcome here. This is your space, too. Here's your key card, Dr. Holloway. Would you like assistance with your luggage?" "No, thank you." Janice lifted her new leather weekend bag, butter soft and burgundy, nothing like the old duffel that had been thrown across this very lobby. "I can manage." As she turned toward the elevators, a familiar face emerged from a nearby conference room. Angela Nguyen, dressed in a sharp business suit, was leading a group of new employees on a tour. Their eyes met, and Angela's face broke into a warm smile. "Dr. Holloway." Angela excused herself from her group and crossed the lobby. "I heard you were coming in today." They embraced briefly, both aware of the symbolism of this moment, in this space. "How are the training sessions going?" Janice asked, noting the Director of Staff Development badge on Angela's lapel. "Really well. We're implementing the new protocols across all southeastern properties." Angela gestured to her group, who were studying a wall display about the hotel's history, including its recent transformation. "This is our third cohort this month." They moved to a quiet corner of the lobby, where comfortable armchairs had replaced the stiff benches of before. A coffee station offered fresh beverages to all guests, no questions asked. "Sometimes I still can't believe how much has changed," Angela said softly, looking around. The new ownership brought in consultants from civil rights organizations, completely revamped the hiring practices. "We're actually leading the industry now in diversity metrics." Janice nodded, remembering the cascade of events that had led to this moment. After her video went viral, after the contract negotiation, after the groundbreaking, the old ownership had been forced to sell. The hotel's reputation had been too damaged to recover without radical change. "And you? How's the transit hub project?" Angela asked. "On schedule. The first phase opens next quarter. Janice smiled. You should see the community involvement. We've got local artists designing the stations, small businesses planning to open shops in the corridors. It's becoming more than we imagined. A young black woman in a business suit walked past them, nodding confidently to the front desk staff, who greeted her with genuine warmth. No one questioned her presence. No one followed her movements with suspicious eyes. That's what real change looks like, Angela said, following Janice's gaze. Not just new policies, but new attitudes, new expectations. Speaking of which, Janice reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. The Infrastructure Equity Initiative is hosting its first annual conference next month. We'd love to have you speak about institutional transformation. Angela took the envelope, her eyes widening. Me? Who better? You saw something wrong and didn't stay silent. That's exactly the kind of courage we're trying to cultivate. Their conversation was interrupted by Angela's group, waiting patiently for their tour to continue. I should get back, Angela said, tucking the envelope carefully into her portfolio. Will you be at dinner tonight? Some of the board members are gathering in the new restaurant. Wouldn't miss it. Janice squeezed Angela's arm gently. Keep doing good work. They parted ways, and Janice took the elevator to her suite, a corner room with floor-to-ceiling windows. She set down her bag and walked to the window, taking in the city skyline. Construction cranes dotted the horizon, including the distinct shape of her transit hub rising in the distance. The room was immaculate, decorated with local art like the lobby. On the desk sat a welcome note from hotel management and a fruit basket. Such a contrast to that night when she'd had to gather her scattered belongings from the floor. Janice touched the cool glass, her reflection overlaying the city view. This time, they saw me, she whispered, and in the glass, she saw herself smile. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.